Jackson Arnold made his debut as QB1 in the Alamo Bowl against Arizona last night, and there were some positives. There were some negatives. A lot of highs, definitely a lot of lows. But what is the level of concern for Oklahoma fans going into the SEC with Arnold as their new starting quarterback? Let's talk about it. If you are new here, welcome on into the channel. My name is Cole Thompson. I'm a radio show host based in Houston, and I talk college football daily. So if this is the type of content you enjoy, plus anything going on with bowl eligibility, coaching searches, the transfer portal, national championship news, and a bunch of other nonsense, make sure that you smash that subscribe button down below. Leave a comment telling me your thoughts on Arnold's performance last night against the Wildcats. Tell your friends, your family, your mortal enemies, best of bros, college football aficionado fans, and Oklahoma Sooners everywhere about this channel, because we're on the race to become the #1 college football YouTube show in the country. Continue to follow me on social media at Mr. Cole Thompson. That way, the conversation of college football never has to stop flowing. Jackson Arnold, last night, overall, pretty lackluster performance if we want to be real. 38-24 was the final score. Arizona improves to 10-3 on the year, and Oklahoma, unfortunately, drops to 10-3. But in my opinion, this is not the end of the world. One thing that we always see happen is bowl syndrome taking control, where a performance in a game is going to create a narrative that usually doesn't dictate what the player is. We've seen this before, and we're going to see it time and time again. Like, take, for instance, a guy like Miller Moss right now. 6 touchdowns against Louisville in the Holiday Bowl. And now next season, everyone is going to expect him to live up to that type of hype. Well, Louisville was missing multiple players defensively. They were missing a ton of offensive personnel. They weren't the same team that strutted their stuff in the ACC this past season. So take nothing away from Miller Moss, but let's also pump the brakes a little bit on what his overall persona is going to be in Los Angeles with Lincoln Riley. The same thing should be said, but in a different direction when it comes to Jackson Arnold. What I saw last night when he threw for 361 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and had a fumble was a quarterback still getting acclimated to the college game. Because when you watched him play in high school, there were just attributes about him that stood out. There was a reason he was a 5-star talent. Arm strength, accuracy, touch, poise in the pocket, footwork, awareness to the blitzes, being able to call audibles at the line of scrimmage, and more importantly, he was just better than everybody else that ever took the field on Friday nights. That was the persona of what we saw in last night's game. Welcome to college, buddy. Here's your moment where you're going to get humbled a little bit. It was basically that type of performance. But what you saw in a lot of positives were attributes that aren't teachable. You either have them or you don't. There are traits that some quarterbacks possess and some wide receivers and offensive linemen and defensive tackles that just make you salivate as a football fan. And you sit there and you say to yourself, if I'm able to hone in on all of those positive traits, I got myself a special player. Last night, Jackson Arnold was able to sling it around the yard, make Uncle Rico proud for Napoleon Dynamite, and certainly prove there are intangibles to his game that you were never going to have with Dillon Gabriel. There was also the factor of a brand new offensive coordinator now calling the shots. So the entire offseason and the entire regular season, Jackson Arnold was not learning underneath Seth Littrell, who will take over next season as the primary play caller in the SEC. Now, he was learning underneath Jeff Levy, and Levy called plays probably a little bit differently than a guy like Seth Littrell will. So it was a learning process. How do we adapt and take the finite things that work for us in one situation and enhance it going into the offseason? And more importantly, how do we grow up those mistakes? How do we make sure that those interceptions are more timely passes? How do we make sure that you're reading the field and processing the defenses in a more timely manner to where a pick actually turns into points? That's kind of the thing that I took away in last night's game. And you saw on multiple occasions what makes Arnold stand out compared to Dillon Gabriel. He's not Dillon Gabriel. Gabriel is left-handed. He's right-handed. But more importantly, this is a quarterback that's able to sling it deep in a way that Gabriel never could. Those are the kind of traits that you look at and say, I understand why Gabriel left. Because there was no reason for Dillon Gabriel to enter the transfer portal if he didn't feel like he was in jeopardy of losing his job. But you go back and you watch the throw to a Brennan Thompson, or you go back and watch a 20-yard connection with a Nick Anderson, or you go back and you watch how the dink and dunk passes turn into massive gains because of quick timing and the up-tempo and the ability to process at a pretty quick manner. All those things were reasons why Dillon Gabriel decided to enter the portal and now strap it up and play for the Ducks in 2024. It wasn't because he's not a good quarterback. It's that because they want to see what Arnold has. And in my opinion, what you take away in last night's game is that Arnold is a freshman making his debut in a bowl game, his real debut. We can talk about, yeah, he's played in some games from here and there, and he's filled in during the second half of one game, but he truly made his impact felt for the first time in a bowl game against a team that was going for a record-setting year down in Tucson. There were always going to be struggles. You didn't see a lot of opt-outs from the Wildcats side. You didn't see that many on Oklahoma's side, but certainly more than you saw with Arizona. So take nothing away from this game. Just like I would say when you look at Miller Moss and when you look at a guy like Nico Iamaleava, who's going to be making his first start. Take that with a grain of salt. Those are the foundation of where you want to enhance, because Miller Moss still had some bad throws. I guarantee you Nico Iamaleava is going to have at least one or two bad passes, one of which could be picked off by Iowa. The same thing should be taken in advantage when talking about a guy like Jackson Arnold, because everything is there. It just comes down to processing the material a little bit faster, reading a defense in a bit more timely of a purpose. Little nuances like that will turn a punt into points and points into wins. That's what you look at when it comes to Jackson Arnold. And Oklahoma's going to be fine. Oklahoma is still going to have a great rushing attack next year. They're still going to have a good defense headlined by one of the best minds in the game when it comes to Brent Venables. And this, again, is one start. We can't go ahead and pigeonhole ourselves in believing that a player is going to be this way for the remainder of his career based off of one performance. And it goes in both spectrums, positively and negatively. I'm not worried about Jackson Arnold. What I saw last night was a quarterback still trying to work out the kinks and find his rhythm and repertoire in the college football level. And if he does that and he gets it down to a product and an experiment to a concoction that's going to work, everybody better be watching out for Oklahoma. They are a team that did build extremely well in the rushing attack, in the trenches, finding the right players on the recruiting trail this past offseason. And they're going to continue to do that once they get to the SEC. I don't think many people understand how much that SEC brand carries weight when it comes to flipping a kid from going to the ACC or the Big Ten or what used to be the Pac-12 or now the Big 12. Any one of those conferences can't hold a flame next to what the SEC has to offer. And Oklahoma's got the patch to prove it. I'm not worried about Jackson Arnold. I would not be worried if I was an Oklahoma fan. You saw a lot of positives that you're going to hold on to. Replay the clips throughout the entire offseason. And then once you get that finalized, then you get to build off of it. Plus, you were probably limited with the playbook. You knew that you were going to not call every play, and you didn't see any fear in him. I thought that was the biggest takeaway of anything else. 2 interceptions early, not afraid to go back to slinging it around the yard, not afraid to go ahead and take some deep shots, and not afraid to call the offense the way he saw fit. Those are traits that I will hold on to if I'm an Oklahoma fan. And then the rest, luckily, we got 9 months to figure this stuff out before we make our debut in the SEC. And once we make our debut in the SEC and Arnold is ready, the world better be paying attention. Oklahoma may not be a college football playoff contender right away, but they are going to be a viable threat to get some upsets and definitely make noise in year one, as long as Jackson Arnold proves that last night was just a blip on the radar for what should be a very promising career in Norman, Oklahoma. If I'm an Oklahoma fan, I'm actually feeling a little bit more confident knowing what's at stake and what is available than what I really didn't see last night. Because a lot of those things are teachable. A lot of those mistakes are correctable. But the intangibles, you have it or you don't. And Jackson Arnold, he's number one in a lot of those attributes. Ones that will turn you into a contender and maybe even a national championship type program. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching that video. Don't hit the X button yet. Make sure you hit subscribe to keep up with all of our daily content found on Just Saying It and anything else that we post on this channel. Bye.